Support comes from Mainline Magazine, announcing its weekend-long independent music festival from September 11th to 13th. The independently curated 3-day event features 22 live acts performing in multiple venues spanning Little Five Points, Summerhill, and Decatur. Headliners include CDSM, Scatterbrain, Janie Danger, Mulus, Jonna Camille, Major, and more. Early tickets and more information are at mainlineatl.com/tickets.
Welcome to the ATL Arts Collective, powered by ArtsATL. I'm Kim Drobes, and this is your home for stories, voices, and visionaries shaping Atlanta's creative community. Each week, I'm joined by a rotating co-host, someone you may already know, or someone you're about to be very glad you met. And today, you are in for a treat because I have not one, but two co-hosts. Jasmine, Hentschel, and E.C. Flaming are the creatives behind Gulch magazine, Atlanta's premier visual art publication. They are both deeply embedded in Atlanta's art scene, and currently they contribute monthly to the podcast with their Making It Work series. Jasmine and E.C., I'm so happy you're here.
Super excited.
We're going to get to know Jasmine and E.C. better later in the program, but right now, let's take a look at what else is in store for you today. Later in the show, Jasmine and E.C. will share the story of Elsewhere. The roving curatorial practice has a new show on view at the Hambidge Hive, and we'll learn about the challenges and rewards of exhibiting in a non-traditional space.
Plus, Lois Reitzes stops by to talk with director Freddie Ashley about WIT, on stage now at Actors Express. Then we'll catch up on this month's art news with Isadora Pennington, and we'll close the show with ArtsATL's Best Bets with executive editor Shane Harrison.
First up today, we're looking at a theatrical boom in Atlanta. Ever since the pandemic shutdown, a unique breed of live variety reviews has emerged. They feature a wild mix of performers aiming to fight off gloomy times with pure entertainment and laughter. ArtsATL editor-at-large, Benji Carr, recently caught up with the hosts behind these recurring shows to find out what makes them tick.
Gina Rikicki, an actress and improviser known around Atlanta for her wild sense of humor and tremendous heart, wanted her latest project, the show Joy Deficit, at Red Light Cafe, to give the audience a chance to feel good after a long, stressful time. To do that, she begins every show with a primal scream.
I wanted to start with a scream for a couple of different reasons. One is because, much like in chorus, when everybody is singing the same note or singing the same song, everybody's breathing syncs up and their heartbeats sync up and we're all in the same zone. But when people are coming in off the streets, they're coming in carrying all of the bull that all of us are carrying. So at first I was like 30 seconds and I quickly discovered that no, that is too long. So as a spooky gal, one of my favorite numbers is 13. So we landed on that, and that feels about right. The idea is you came in with a bunch of negative stuff. We all do. We bring the outside world in. So we need to scream all of that out, scream whatever you want, cover your ears and scream. And say the bad words and say the scary thoughts, say everything out loud, and it will be lost in the soup of community. And then you make room for the joy to get in. We have to make room for good things to come in. If we're constantly filling ourselves with poison, there is no room for rest or restoration or joy. So that's what that is. 13 seconds of screaming and cussing. And at the end of it, if you do it right, you're a little bit lightheaded and it feels great.
Joy Deficit's monthly shows carry a theme, and audience members can contact Rikicki to suggest an act they'll perform to fit the theme.
The premise is that there is a deficit of joy. How do you address it? The only way you address it is by being around other people and by seeing live performance and by seeing other humans do silly human tricks or intensely emotional or personal or angry or goofy, like whatever it is.
Joy Deficit happens on the fourth Monday of every month at Red Light Cafe, where there is no cost to attend. The first performer ever to take the stage at Joy Deficit was Scotty Rowell, a clown and puppeteer. Rowell has since gone on to co-create the show Down to Clown with Carrie Vieira, which also uses audience participation to entertain audiences at Teller Productions by putting people in vintage game show setups alongside a group of clown performers. Rowell says the show is meeting the moment.
I think also people are just very, very hungry for nonsense right now in a way that we are very happy to provide, in ways that I think we each have tried to provide before, but people just weren't in the right space to like really tap into it in the way they are now. I think it's because of the state of the world and the state of our country. Yes, like we're getting so much from political issues and just a lot of these things that are bogging us down. But then I also think there's also a very interesting time with it right now in that people are so hungry for real things with the way that AI is being pushed upon us in such very frustrating ways that people are like, no, I want something tangible. I want to be holding a banana while a clown eats it. I want to, go see a puppet show. I want something that is tactile right now in ways that I'm not getting otherwise in my life because we're so on screens and we're so gauging, is this real? Is this not? You know it's real when a clown is accidentally spitting on you. You know it's real when somebody's sitting in your lap.
Vieira agrees.
There's so much magic in having an audience member on stage because they want so badly to do well. I think most people want to do well when you're placed in a situation where eyes are on you. And the clown wants that too. But the clown wants to do whatever pleases the audience.
Nick Lynn Rulon, who has performed at Down to Clown, has brought another variety show into the mix. No Shame, also at Teller Productions every Friday night at 10, gives any performer a chance to perform their own work for 5 minutes.
I think it's community. I've always craved that. I think especially post-pandemic, like there are plenty of spaces where we can go and sit by ourselves and watch something and not talk to the people next to us. But like more and more, that is like the opposite of being on your phone and doom scrolling, being in an audience and not only laughing together, but like getting on stage together. I think the common thread between Joy Deficit and Down to Clown and No Shame is like the audience is a part of it. The audience does make the show. And the thing that has always made No Shame so near and dear to my heart is the effect on the audience is, oh, I could get on stage and I could do that. And I can, and I'm allowed to.
At Joy Deficit and shows like it, the important part is people coming together, Rick Hickey says.
I don't need to be the only person doing this. If people see a need in their community, they need to create something, a space where people can gather. I mean, the most basic thing is that people want to belong.
For the ATL Arts Collective, I'm Benji Carr.
You can read Benji's full story at artsatl.org. Now, let's take a minute to visit with Jasmine and EC. As you know, they are the creative duo behind Atlanta's visual art magazine, Gulch. But let's dive a little deeper into their history. Y'all, what are your individual backgrounds and what inspired you to create the magazine?
Well, before I started working on Gulch full-time last year, I was working in tech startups for about a decade as a designer, researcher, and strategist. So a few years back, I kept having conversations with local artists and gallerists and supporters who kept saying that they were feeling like there wasn't enough coverage focused specifically on Atlanta's visual art scene and the people in it, the ones that we were surrounded by every weekend when we're out at all these events with each other. At some point, the idea of publishing a print magazine came to me, and I couldn't sleep at night. I was thinking about it so intensely all the time. So by then, I called up my old pal EC here, who had already been working with me on publishing a weekly calendar of visual art events. She's a brilliant writer and a magazine guru, so I knew she could be an amazing collaborator for such a thing.
Thank you for hyping me up. So I've been working in the arts and writing about arts in Atlanta and the Southeast for about a decade now. I got my start at Art Papers, which is a nonprofit and arts publication with headquarters in Atlanta's own little Five Points neighborhood. I worked as an intern and then as a circulation and editorial coordinator. And during all that, I was going to shows, I was writing reviews, and I was getting more and more embedded in the art scene and falling more and more in love with the art scene. So when we first started talking about the magazine, I was so excited because, first of all, I love print media. I had experience working in print media. And second of all, just like Jasmine, I knew there was a gap in the on-the-ground visual arts coverage in Atlanta, particularly when it came to documenting the art scene as we were experiencing it. We wanted a publication in which our community could really see themselves reflected.
Well, kudos to you both, because I do believe you have accomplished that. And earlier, Jasmine briefly mentioned the weekly calendar of visual art events that you were already publishing on social media for free, and you still publish. So how does that actually come together each week?
That is such a good question. So I think anyone who has worked in media that includes a weekly calendar of anything knows it's a lot more work than it seems. Just collecting the data can be an immense task. And because time just moves forward, it's a task that is endless.
Right.
But here's the thing about Jasmine. So Jasmine is extremely good at creating sustainable systems. It's kind of her superpower. And that's kind of what she created for the art calendar that we've done for about 6 years now. It's a system that we've kind of been refining. And it basically involves compiling event announcements into an Instagram folder. So if we're just scrolling on Instagram like we all do, and we see an event come up, and we follow just about every gallery and art institution we can think of in Atlanta, we save it into a folder, and then that info from the folder gets input manually onto our website every week. Once that info is up on the website, which we aim to do kind of early in the week, and then we do another check sort of midweek. Also, a big shout out to Lauren Leslie, a local artist who currently helps us manage the data for our website. Thank you, Lauren. Then Jasmine designs the graphics for Instagram, and then we just rinse and repeat.
Fabulous. Well, I noticed you recently released a survey to dig deeper into some of the Atlanta art community's needs. What are you hoping to learn, and is there any intent to make what you learn actionable?
Yeah, thanks for mentioning it. We were recently approached to help do some art community organizing for the time during Atlanta Art Fair, which will happen in the beginning of October. And as someone who's done research professionally for my entire adult life, it's often my instinct to start big initiatives like this by just asking questions and digging for insights about the people that I'm making things for. So the goal of this survey is to help us understand more objectively some of the behaviors, the mental models, and the context of the people that are engaging with the Atlanta visual art scene so that we can, make better services and serve our community better. So we'll run the survey about 6 to 8 weeks, and then our goal is to share the results in aggregate with the community later this summer so that others can use the information too to help make decisions and be strategic with the things that they're working on. So you can take it at gulchmagazine.com/research if you want to get involved.
Oh, absolutely. What a great endeavor. So each week, our guest co-host brings a story with them, and y'all have brought a story with you today about the roving curatorial practice elsewhere. Why was this the story you chose to share?
So this particular story hits on a lot of hallmarks of the Atlanta art scene. So the art scene in this city can be incredibly collaborative, and artists, curators, and arts institutions are constantly working together to produce new work. In this story, we get to explore the challenges and benefits of such collaborations and how a nomadic curatorial practice like elsewhere can thrive.
It's a great story. I'm excited to share it with everyone. But right now, we get to welcome Atlanta radio legend Lois Reitzes back to the mic. She's been enjoying a pretty busy retirement for almost a year now, and lucky for us, she still loves connecting with the creative community, and she's become a recurring contributor to the ATL Arts Collective. Recently, she spoke with Freddie Ashley, artistic director of Actors Express and director of their current production of WIT. She wanted to learn more about this nuanced production of the award-winning play.
At what point are knowledge and understanding not enough to help us process our inevitable death? Playwright Margaret Edson explores that question in her Pulitzer Prize-winning drama, WIT, on stage now at Actors Express. Artistic director Freddie Ashley is directing the production. He's here now to discuss this show. Freddie, thank you for joining me.
Oh, the pleasure is mine, Lois.
Margaret Edson has said that her goal was never to be a playwright. She just wanted to write this one play. How would you summarize the story of this one play she had in her?
Well, and what a play it is. But it's the story of Vivian Baring, who is a very demanding, highly accomplished professor of 17th century literature, notably the poetry of John Donne and his holy sonnets. And throughout her life, she has pursued intellectual rigor. She's pursued the highest standards. And as it turns out, and as she discovers in the play, to the exclusion of her connections with other people. And we track how she comes to understand what life really is about and who she really is if she just will allow herself to let go of the armor she's created.
She has stage 4 ovarian cancer, and we see her in the play in her hospital bed, hooked up to all kinds of machines. What is the significance of Professor Baring's specialty in the poetry of John Donne?
Well, John Donne's poetry was all about grappling with life and death, the inevitability of death. Will I have God's forgiveness? Do I deserve God's forgiveness? And he would ask these questions in his holy sonnets in very complex ways, building up arguments and counter arguments and creating these highly intellectualized examinations of life and death and God. That's how Vivian has constructed her own life. I mean, she sort of in many ways is a John Donne sonnet. And she, though, comes to realize, as I said earlier, that perhaps that intellectual rigor and that need for complication isn't necessarily what it's all about, so to speak.
I love your description of her character as a John Donne sonnet itself. Freddie, how is healthcare portrayed in WIT?
We see a few montages when Vivian first enters into the healthcare system, the busyness of the hospital, the sometimes impersonal nature of it. But there are two characters in the play who represent sort of polarities in healthcare. One is a young doctor who's ambitious and very much like Vivian herself. Indeed, he's a former student of hers who is in a prestigious fellowship at the hospital. The other is a nurse, Susie, who is warm, nurturing, and seems to have this simple, maybe even simplistic worldview that is something that Vivian comes to admire and rely on. So you see the need for patient survival at all costs, gathering research, regardless of the consequences on the patient, but you also see nurturing and caring and, a nurse going above and beyond and taking this patient under her wing and caring for her in more ways than just her health.
I read that some hospitals and clinics have used the play as a tool for people dealing with cancer, for patients and their families. What are your thoughts about taking this outside of the theater and into a medical setting?
I think that's fascinating, and I can certainly see why, because we do see so many aspects of the healthcare process. Some of them are admirable, and some of them are cringe-inducing. And so, the young doctor, for example, has no bedside manner because he's playing to be a researcher, and so he thinks bedside manner is frivolous and a waste of time. However, it's terribly important to a patient who is frightened and ill. So we see these different examples of what they get right, what they could possibly do better. And so, yeah, I think it would be a great tool to have in teaching hospitals and in medical schools, the way it lays out so many different aspects of healthcare.
The adage, write what you know. Margaret Edson was working as a unit clerk on the oncology and AIDS floor of a research hospital in Washington, D.C. She was very young when she wrote this.
Yes. She first wrote it in 1991, and then it didn't find a production until 95 at South Coast Rep in California. And then, of course, in 99, when it was at Long Wharf and then off Broadway, that's when the world really sort of discovered the play and it won the Pulitzer. But yes, she was quite young when she wrote it. And it's for someone who never set out to be a playwright, it is a remarkable piece of writing, as I mentioned earlier. The dramatic construction of it is impeccable. The storytelling, the way it echoes certain points, the way that the storytelling sort of adapts itself as the play goes on. And indeed, parts of the play are structured very much also like a Donne sonnet in terms of the different stages of confronting life and mortality. So it is an exceptionally accomplished piece of playwriting. And the fact that she wrote it young without having higher aspirations to enter that profession makes it all the more miraculous.
Margaret Edson was teaching kindergarten when WIT won the Pulitzer for Best Drama. I read that she was called out of her kindergarten classroom to get the news. And then the committee sent donuts to her class. And she said she has this marvelous memory of all her little students with powdered sugar mustaches.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I think this was unusual for the Pulitzer Committee to have such a winner. She's remained a dedicated teacher for over 30 years, and all but her first 5 years have been spent here. Would you tell us about her Atlanta connection?
Yes, and now she teaches at Midtown High School. And, I've read a lot of interviews with her. I've watched some interviews with her, and she always, when pressed about writing more plays, says that she identifies first and foremost as a teacher. And I think that is really notable. And I can only imagine how lucky a student would be to have her as a teacher. And I haven't spent a lot of time with her, but I've spent some time with her, and I can tell that she has the spirit of a teacher and the soul of a teacher.
Well, given that she lives here in Atlanta and teaches at Midtown High, I wondered if you talked with her about the production at Actors Express.
We did. I have to say, though, Margaret is very hesitant to give too much advice about the play. What she said to me, and also to Carolyn Cook, who's playing Vivian, I wrote the play and now it's yours to bring to life. And she doesn't want to interfere or bring to bear some kind of advice that maybe would have worked in another production, but perhaps not this one. So she was very generous to talk about how she sees the play and some of the impulses for writing it. But she was very careful to say, I don't want to intrude on your process. I want to see what y'all do with the play. And I thought that was very generous of her. But yeah, she was really careful not to overstep.
In a 2012 interview for the Manhattan Theater Company, Edson said that her favorite thing anyone has ever said to her about the show was, quoting, "After the play ended, everyone there felt closer to who they were with." Freddie, what does that tell us about the ultimate message the playwright intended for WIT?
Yeah, I think that lines up precisely with what the message is and what Vivian's journey is in the play. Vivian discovers that we need other people. We need each other. We can't go it alone in this world. We're not built for that. I think that hearing that kind of feedback from audiences, that they feel closer to the people they're with or to the people whom they love, I would imagine that that would be very much the most highly desired outcome for any production of the play.
Freddie, it is always a joy and a privilege to talk with you and hear your insight. Thank you very much for talking with me.
Thank you, Lois. I always love talking to you.
That was ATL Arts Collective contributor Lois Reitzes speaking with WIT director Freddie Ashley. The play is on stage at Actors Express through June 28th. Now, as promised, it is time for our guest co-hosts, Gulch Magazine's Jasmine Hentschel and E.C. Flaming, to share their feature story. This is a look at a roving curatorial practice that takes on the challenge of exhibiting in a non-traditional art exhibition space. Jasmine and E.C. have more.
We at Gulch have always been fans of unconventional art spaces. Once you take art out of a traditional white wall gallery, some very interesting things can happen. A not-so-gallery-like space can bring out a lot of creativity, and the art can take on new, unexpected meanings. An unconventional space can be a challenge for both artist and curator, but when done well, the results can be amazing.
Atlanta-based curator Anna Acapelli has lots of experience working with unconventional spaces. Their roving curatorial concept, known as Elsewhere, has produced exhibitions in traditional galleries, but also in houses, apartments, and backyards.
It's really just kind of a way for me to explore curation for my own, like as a curator, just like thinking outside of the box of ways that you can activate spaces and work with artists.
Working with these non-traditional spaces also necessitates more fluid ways of putting shows together and collaborating with the artists in them.
Typically, I start with the idea or some idea for a show. I might have a couple of the artists. I might not know any artists that I want to work with. But I usually always kind of know like a concept or like a feeling that I want to work within. And then based on that is usually when I try to figure out, okay, like what space would kind of fit best for this concept or for these pieces of art. But then also just from the artist side, really kind of trying to understand their process and trying to really work with them in like a symbiotic way to like make shows happen. I feel like there's lots of kind of like ongoing conversation that usually happens prior to me putting together an Elsewhere exhibition. So yeah, I really try to spend the time, get to know the artists, and see what can kind of blossom from that.
In fact, Anna builds such strong relationships with the artists in Elsewhere's world that they often find ways to work together again on other exhibitions or projects.
I feel like there's a stigma of like working with, like continuing to work with the same artist over and over. But I think there's a beauty in it because like the artwork's not always going to be the same. And even the concept behind the artwork isn't always going to be the same. And so I think it's kind of a value to like really continue to find ways to work with the same artists and find ways to like fit them in with other artists. I love to run it back.
Now, to really get a feel for Elsewhere, you need to get out and see an exhibition. We recently visited the latest Elsewhere show titled Tomorrow Mourning. That's Mourning as in Mourning, which is currently on view in the Hambidge Hive space at Uptown Atlanta in Lindbergh. In Tomorrow Mourning, Acapelli showcases the work of 4 artists, Makita Lewis Canuthia, Scott Kitely, Ezekiel Robinson, and stem lines. The exhibition explores impermanence and temporality, grief and loss, and the space between denial and acceptance. It's big themes in a big space.
Before we get into the exhibition and the art within it, we have to talk about the Hambidge Hive. The Hambidge Hive is a creative project space of the Hambidge Center, which is maybe most known for their popular artist residencies in the mountains of North Georgia. They also have an annual auction that's popular. The thing you need to know about the Hambidge Hive as a location is that it is not an easy space to work with. The Hambidge Hive is an open industrial space of 30,000 square feet that Hambidge uses to host pop-up galleries, immersive installations, events, and more.
We've got like a really amazing view, kind of like a 360. If you walk around the whole 15th floor, you kind of see like downtown Atlanta. You can see Stone Mountain. You can see Bughead. I think you can even see Kennesaw Mountain from like that side. So yeah, really beautiful space, lots of light and windows and other artwork also throughout the space.
The walls at the Hambidge Hive are also pretty much completely floor-to-ceiling windows. So you have this incredible view of the city. Remember, it's on the 15th floor. But hanging artwork can pose a little bit of a problem. With an exhibition location, bigger is not always better. Too large of a space can sometimes feel cavernous and awkward. It's a challenge.
This challenge is one that Anna is not only ready to take on, but looks at as a good exercise in letting go.
The show was really like cathartic to put together. Like I wasn't really sure what it would look like. Like even Zeke's piece, The Swing, he initially, like the drawing for that was completely different. And so like, I feel like this show in particular was really kind of like an exercise in act, like truly letting go. Like I had to just kind of let things pan out the way that they were going to pan out and not have control, which is hard,
Tough.
you know? So yeah, I think that's like the one thing I'm most pleased with was just kind of like letting things be.
Amazing. Robinson's installation looks a little bit like a big net, though I interpret it as a spider web. The web, which maybe looked like it's made out of fishing line, is hooked up to a spinning record player. So you get some movement with this piece, like it's blowing in the wind. It's adorned with leaves and greenery, and most importantly, 9 small paintings that could be of family or images of friends. There's even one painting caught right in the middle of the web, gently swinging in the mechanically generated, quote-unquote, breeze. This work by Robinson, to me, feels very appropriate for an exhibition about the ephemeral, about the fleeting nature of memory, and the human impulse to hold on to those memories.
Beside the creaking record player in Robinson's swing piece, we see the remnants of Scott Kitely's sculpture titled Tomorrow Mourning. I say remnants because the state in which we viewed the sculpture is a bit different than how it appeared on opening night of the exhibition. It's one of those pieces you have to see in person to truly get it.
Okay, so Scott's piece started out as a ice bust. So it was a head, shoulders, not super detailed, just literally head and shoulders. And then there's a bird. It's called an African bee eater. That's kind of suspended in the head of the ice bust. And yeah, it has since melted since the opening reception, but also kind of like a literal representation of the passage of time. We have a time lapse of it, and you almost don't even notice it melting at the beginning, but then it just like slowly gets thinner and thinner and thinner, and then the bird falls off, and then the shoulders kind of melt off.
I do enjoy an artwork that changes over time. I think it can be a very powerful way to communicate change and grief. Of course, I'm thinking of Untitled Portrait of Ross in L.A. by Felix Gonzalez Torres. This work is not a Gonzalez Torres level, but I felt like it was maybe the start of something for Kylie. And, as we learned, a major inspiration for Akpele's exhibition concept.
Another work we enjoyed was Makita Lewis Canuthia's Camera Obscura, which gives a live-action view of the whole downtown Atlanta cityscape inside.
So, if you don't know what a camera obscura is, it's basically an optical phenomenon in which light goes through a small hole like a window and projects an inverted, reversed, and this is the part that always blows my mind, live image of the outside world onto the opposing wall. For a camera obscura, ideally, you want a small enclosed room with a single window. The Hambidge Hive is a giant industrial space with windows on all sides. So you have the view, but there's some challenges actually making the camera obscura. But somehow Lewis Canuthia made it work. By using blackout curtains, rods, black plastic, and more, she created a camera obscura in a location I would have thought near impossible.
I did know that we had these big windows and that it could be just kind of like an added, I don't know, just kind of thinking about time fleeting and things changing and, you know, having to kind of accept that that's just like an unavoidable thing in life. To me, the camera obscura really represents that, because it's like you were in there maybe 5 minutes ago, but I'm sure the clouds have maybe shifted, or like something has changed to where it probably doesn't look exactly the same as what you saw when you were in there. So I don't know, I feel like it's a very like literal representation of like the passage of time.
Overall, this exhibition has a tension between its intimate themes of grief, loss, solace, the ephemeral, and the space itself. The Hambidge Hive is not a warm space. It's cold, it's vast, it's hard to navigate. I mean, just getting up to the 15th floor is a whole saga. I think there's an argument here that placing this kind of work into this kind of space actually works to enhance these intimate, deeply human themes just because of the contrast you experience when viewing this work.
We have a ton of respect for Akpele and the artists who did a lot of creative problem solving to make this show work. And we also appreciate Hambidge for continuing to utilize their space in a way that both serves and reflects the Atlanta art community. Tomorrow morning, we'll be on view at Hambidge Hive until June 28th. Keep an eye on Elsewhere's Instagram page for the most up-to-date viewing hours. For the ATL Arts Collective, we're Jasmine Hentschel and E.C. Flaming of Gulch magazine.
Thank you, Jasmine and EC. That was absolutely wonderful, and I am so impressed with your work. In just a moment, ArtsATL Executive Editor Shane Harrison joins us with his top picks for the weekend. We'll be back in just a minute.
Support comes from Motherlode. Recently featured in Vogue magazine as one of the top vintage spots in Atlanta, this 10,000 square foot space features over 60 local curators and artisans who offer a variety of items from designer to kitsch and from antiques to modern. Located on Covington Highway in Avondale Estates, the store is open daily from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. Browse, shop, attend an event, or wander around and get inspired. Learn more on Instagram at MotherlodeATL. And from the It's You ATL podcast.
Hey y'all, I'm Naja Parker, co-host of the It's You ATL podcast, powered by the AJC.
Hey y'all.
Hello.
Ooh, twins.
Twinsies. Where we break down the stories, trends, and conversations shaping Black culture in Atlanta and across the South. From music and entertainment to politics, relationships, and community issues, if it's happening in the culture, we're talking about it. Listen to It's You ATL wherever you get your podcast.
Welcome back to the ATL Arts Collective. I'm Kim Drobes here with our special guest co-hosts, Jasmine Hentschel and E.C. Flaming of Gulch magazine. Hi, y'all.
Hey, Kim. It's time now for ArtsATL's Best Bets with executive editor Shane Harrison. This week, his mix includes Juneteenth celebrations, Georgia Shorts Film Festival, and a performance by Georgia's own Empress of Soul, Gladys Knight.
This week brings us both Juneteenth celebrations and Pride events, but it's also a big week for music, especially if you're in the mood for nostalgia. Friday is Juneteenth, the annual commemoration of the emancipation of enslaved African Americans. In Atlanta, the biggest event takes place June 18th through the 21st at Piedmont Park, with a parade, live performances, and other cultural activities. The parade will begin at 10 a.m. on June 20th near the King Center and will travel down Boulevard and Monroe Drive to Piedmont Park. This year's event honors the late Juneteenth Atlanta Executive Board member and Oscar-winning actor Louis Gossett Jr. Atlanta's main Pride event takes place in October, largely because it's really hot here in the summer and a long walk down Peachtree Street in late June is a sweaty slog. However, because June is the traditional month of Pride around the world, you'll find plenty of Pride-themed events this month too. Southern Fried Queer Pride is a multi-day festival in Little Five Points from June 22nd through June 28th, featuring an artist market, gallery exhibitions, intergenerational dinners, and the Peach Pit pageant at Seven Stages Theater. Now in its 12th year, the theme for 2026 is Seeds of Resistance. Take a trip back to the 80s at the Fox Theater on June 19th with a show headlined by the Human League. The lineup also includes Alison Moyet, best known as the vocalist for the duo known as Yaz in the US, but Yazoo in the rest of the world, and Soft Cell with Mark Almond. Sadly, this is Soft Cell's first tour without founder Dave Ball, who died last year. Australia's The Church, which began its career back in 1980, comes to center stage on June 19th. The tour is called The Singles 1980 to 2025 and will include many of their beloved songs, such as Under the Milky Way and Reptile from their 1988 album Starfish. If you're looking for a bit of jazz, Spyro Gyra, which celebrated its 50th anniversary in 2024, comes to City Winery Atlanta on June 17th. And on June 18th, Mike Walton presents A Love Supreme in honor of John Coltrane's 100th birthday at Eddie's Attic. Coltrane was born on September 23, 1926 in North Carolina. The Classical Remix Festival, which began on June 13th and continues through June 28th, presents Bridgerton and Mendelssohn at Autry Mill Nature Preserve on June 21st. This concert features members of the Atlanta Symphony and Atlanta Opera Orchestras performing selections from the Bridgerton soundtrack live. For the second half of the program, they'll be joined by students of the William Pooh Music Academy and William Pooh himself to perform Felix Mendelssohn's Octet in E-flat major, Opus 20. The Cinema Life Film Festival Collective, a grassroots all-woman-led indie festival platform, presents Georgia Shorts Film Festival from June 19th through June 21st. On opening night, the festival will honor Juneteenth, launching with a celebration of Black cinema, bold storytelling, and emerging filmmakers of color. With 84 short films officially selected, all screenings will take place at 7 stages in Little Five Points. And you can also catch a performance by Georgia's own Empress of Soul, Gladys Knight, who will perform at the Frederick Brown Jr. Amphitheater in Peachtree City on June 20th. The 82-year-old Atlanta-born legend has had a remarkably long career, with her first recordings with the Pips released in the 1950s. For the ATL Arts Collective and ArtsATL, I'm Shane Harrison.
Shane actually curates an even longer list each week, and you can find all of his picks at artsatl.org.
Atlanta's art scene runs deep. To keep up with all the news you need to know, we welcome ArtsATL's senior editor, Isadora Pennington. Hi, Isadora. What do you have for us today?
Hi, Kim. Thanks for having me. I've got so much great art news to share with you today. Let's get right to it. First, the High Museum of Art has announced that Cheryl Finley is the recipient of the 21st Annual David C. Driscoll Prize. Cheryl is a professor at Spelman University and director of the Atlanta University Center Art History and Curatorial Studies Collective since 2019. She's been absolutely instrumental in supporting emerging Black curators, scholars, and professionals. Cheryl is going to be honored during the Driscoll Prize Gala on September 19, just before the Hive's centennial celebrations kick off this fall. This is a well-deserved honor for a really remarkable individual. Next up, congratulations are also in order for 2 local literary artists who have been awarded grants from South Arts. a nonprofit arts organization that supports artists and organizations across the South. The local awardees are Ashley Hayes of Atlanta and Kalundra Smith from my neck of the woods over here in Avondale Estates. The next celebratory news is about Lost in the Letters. For the unfamiliar, they are a local literary arts nonprofit that recently took over part of the former Flying Biscuit location in Candler Park. They also received a grant from South Arts. Lastly, in Chamblee, the first round of resident studio artists has been announced for the new Sproul Studios, which celebrated their opening with a ribbon cutting on June 13th. The 16 artists selected for studios there include Renilda Blair, Yuan Butler, Medora Frey, Manti Day, Claire Paul, and Kristen Thorson. The full list of artists can be found in this month's news briefs on ArtsATL's website. Great job all around.
Oh, that's wonderful. We love celebrating our local talent. What is up next in the world of art news?
Or I think another cool update to share is that local artist-led group 404 Found ATL has launched a new retail gallery space at Westside Modern. This expands upon their pop-up exhibition schedule, and having a physical location is going to allow them to showcase and sell works by local and regional artists throughout the year.
I am not familiar with this organization. What's the history of 404 Found ATL?
The group was founded by local artists Kat Stockton, Larry Holland, and Dan and Brittany Curran. They often exhibit at Limelight Gallery inside the Binders Art Supply store in Buckhead. 404 Found ATL was founded in 2023 when they hosted their first exhibition, Dreamscapes. They're currently working toward a new exhibition of 8x8 works called Solara, Return to the Light, which will be on view at Limelight Gallery starting on July 2nd.
That is excellent. Thank you. What's up next?
Well, another exciting update. It's official. Goat Farm's Loop is now open on the Georgia Tech campus. This innovative art center offers studios as well as exhibition and activation space, and I got to take a behind-the-scenes tour of the sprawling property back in January of this year. They debuted on June 6th with a multifaceted arts experience fusing technology and art, and it was really cool to see it come to life.
Oh, I bet. So when you toured earlier this year, I'm curious what your take was on the space. And could you share a little more about your experience with the debut show?
When I came to visit Loop before it was open, it was really just a construction site. It's kind of a shell of a building, but there was so much potential there. And talking to Ali Bashik, who runs the arts programming for the Goat Farm, you could see that this was going to be something that would benefit not just the Georgia Tech community, but the greater Atlanta artist community. And one thing I was really surprised about was how close it is actually to the Georgia Tech campus. In fact, if you walk around certain parts of the property, you can see straight over to the Georgia Tech campus, which I thought was really cool. The new installations and the opening on June 6th was really amazing with a lot of different things going on. There were interactive and participatory arts, but also lots of cool things to watch. And I think it's just really cool to see these larger scale interactive activations have a place to land that really intentionally fuses art with technology.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, congratulations to the Goat Farm and to Georgia Tech.
Absolutely. They both really deserve that. Lastly, today, I want to shout out Flux Projects because they're debuting a new public art project series called Small Moments of Happiness on Peachtree Street through September of this year. You can expect unexpected moments of art and joy, including installations, performances, conversations, and participatory works by artists including Sam Lasseter, Dorothy O'Connor, Robert Ladislas Stir, and Katie DiGiovanna.
That sounds kind of mysterious, but also absolutely wonderful. Isadora, thank you so much for bringing us these stories today. And don't forget, you can read Isadora's full art news brief on artsatl.org.
Thanks again for having me, Kim.
We have reached the end, but before we go, I want to give a big thank you to you both, my co-hosts for today, Jasmine Hentschel and E.C. Flaming. Y'all are always a pleasure to work with, and we're looking forward to our next visit in just a couple of weeks when you're bringing us a new installment of Making It Work.
Yeah, thanks, Kim. It's been a blast.
So glad to be here with you. Thanks, Kim.
Thank you again, y'all. And thank you for listening to the ATL Arts Collective. You can join us on social at ArtsAtlanta, as well as at ATL Arts Collective. You'll find pictures and links related to today's show at artsatl.org/podcast. If you'd like to buy the podcast a cup of coffee, you can learn more about how you can support the show on atlartscollective.com. Stay with us. I'll be right back with a look at what's coming up next week.
Support comes from Soul Food Cypher, a community-driven freestyle rap experience and educational platform. Visit soulfoodcypher.com to learn about their live ciphers, workshops, and performances across Atlanta and beyond. Join the movement and step into the circle.
Welcome back. While you're listening right now, please subscribe, rate, and review. It really does help others find the show. Our theme music is K. Michelle Dubois' Hit the Deck from her album Astral Heart, courtesy of Wicked Superb Records. Next week on the show, Chad Radford of Rad ATL joins us as co-host and brings a story about KESFest, a local indie music festival that raises money for the Atlanta Musicians Emergency Relief Fund. The ATL Arts Collective is part of the Wordplay Collective podcast family. Check out our sister show, In Pieces with Our Land, for conversations with the artist. Thanks again for listening. I'm Kim Droves, and this is the ATL Arts Collective.